She's not just a name in the crowd, but a force to reckon with. Conquered every obstacle, conquered every obstacle, conquered every obstacle to realize the goal.
My name is Angela Mutethya. I am an entrepreneur, a manufacturer, a mother, a wife, an art collector, and a child of God. I would say I started business very early. I'm 31. I turned 31 in 2025. And I started my first business at 16. So my grandmother used to tailor clothes. You remember zile charani za zamani? She used to tailor clothes and she would cut patterns out of gazette and make my dad and uncles jackets, bomber jackets that they'd go to sell at Nairobi University to boost their income after they've gotten boom. So that's what birthed my first business. And I think that ties back to where I saw business being done. My mother was in business, is in business. My grandmother, my great-grandmother was one of those first business women. So I think from a very early age, that striking in my mind is what has led to everything. So I have a generally unconventional path, and I will not lie. And I think unconventional career paths have become more acceptable in the generation that we live in. My first degree was in actuarial science. So you do actuarial science because you're told, ulipita mahesabu, ulipita shule, ulipata a grade. So this is what you're supposed to do. So that was my first formal training. I dropped out in 4th year.
Where was that?
JQuat, yes. It was a lot. It was a lot. It was not something I was very keen on or understood. It's helped me now because most of that training, everything from doing the math to calculus to those actual paper 1 and 2, which you think at that time are hectic, are kind of helping me in what I do now. But that was my first form of formal training. After that, I decided to do marketing, and that was because I found more interest with that because it was more in line to what I was doing, business. So I went back to school, went to KU, did the BCom, and completed that degree. Yes, so that's a formal training I have received, and now I'm a manufacturer. I ran fashion from when I was 16. I stopped my fashion business in 2016. Yes, 2015, 2016 is when I stopped. And because I realized, number one, from the inception, what I truly believe is things don't go wrong, they start wrong. So how I started the business was not on the right footing, and it was also not for the right reasons. I started it because I could, it was there, I could do it. So it was just a briefcase business, for lack of a better word. But it made good strides because with that first business, we were showcasing at Hub of Africa Fashion Week in Ethiopia. But I realized then I've not structured this right. And at this point, I don't have the capital to structure it right. So I closed that first business and started another business, which has also been interviewed in the Business Daily, called Kapulangu. So Kapulangu curated African art from across Africa and sold in Kenya. And with Kapulangu, we were doing a lot of interior design work. So you get projects, you're handling renovations, you're changing themes, you're changing from what was a plain wall to redoing the walls, doing the structures, and very quickly building in that capacity. And within that space, I saw a gaping gap within the space of manufacturing for construction chemicals. Because you would buy something, you've engaged, say, a contractor to handle a certain part of the job. This contractor is doing waterproofing works, for example. As a person who's received that job from the client, my firm is the one that's at risk. And I remember the last project we did before switching to manufacturing was on Raptor Road. And everything that could go wrong went wrong. Waterproofing works, not done properly. Tiling, you're exposed to having spent so much money, but realizing that the value of the product is very low. So what did I do? Started doing what I do best, research and development. And I realized that within the space, we have either very low-end products that are not able to deliver value for customers, or very expensive products on the flip side that most customers cannot afford. So with that, I was like, let's explore this place further, and started doing the research around manufacturing, around waterproofing, around tiling, around skimming fillers, around gypsum. Another issue that we faced was that there were a lot of fakes within the market. So umeenda, sitasema wapi, umenunua, unadhani iko sawa, kumbe kitu ilikorogewa mahali pengine na ikafungwa na ikaletwa kwa duka uuze. So those small things piled up together from the experience of doing these jobs is what led to handling manufacturing. And then I also realized that the space is not done by very many local Kenyans. So many people who look like me don't do that business. And I thought, why not build the team that can deliver that? And here we are with Mzito, now in over 300 hardware stores across Kenya. And kuendelea. We manufacture building and construction chemicals. So everything around the dry powder area, and we're now expanding to a liquid side. So with the dry powders, we have waterproofing, integral waterproofing powder, tile adhesive, which you use for your installation of tiles, tile grout, which now goes into the spaces, and skimming fillers. Yes. And now we're introducing a line of now waterproofing liquids and more technical construction chemicals. As Kenyans, we're now growing. We've traveled. We've seen what other nations are doing. It would be very unfair to say that the landscape of manufacturing, industry, growth will not be represented by our own people. You see different nations going back to say that we need to take ownership of our supply chains. And I think that my positioning as a manufacturer actually makes other women say, it can be done. It's not that technical, it's not that difficult. And even if it is, we can do it. Because very many times we're usually told, ile ni ya wale wasi. Hii biashara, hii inafanyangwa tu na watu wanakaa hivi. Ama hii wachia hawa. Why? Most international companies that come and set up in Kenya can come and leave. But who lives in those houses? It's our parents, right? My mom lives in Athi River. My mother-in-law lives in Buruburu. They live in houses that have been constructed by products that have been manufactured here. So if anyone needs to take ownership of what we make, it's us. And I have seen that growth. I have seen friends who've left IFC who now manufacture fruit nets, right? And that level of ownership is really changing our landscape. There are people who've asked, why is the company called Mzito? But it's what the business represents, right? Our products are not only certified by KEBS, but we've had input from different people. German technology, teams in the UAE come and test and verify that our products are of good quality. What does that tell you? The first cultural shift is that yes, you can make Kenya, build in Kenya, and do it in an international standard. That's the first shift. Secondly, I hear a lot of people, Kenyans, who might look at other Kenyans and be like, in Kenya amefanya hiyo stuff. Maybe it's not okay or up to standard. But that's the second shift, to understand that, yes, think about it this way. Many multinationals come and set up. Where does the labor come from? Here. Where does the raw materials, for example, in building and construction, come from? Here. Very little are imported. And you find that year after year, guys are graduating from Nairobi University, chemical engineers. I don't have to be a chemical engineer to set up a chemical engineering company, but I can hire right and make sure that people see that what we make locally is of good value and can actually be exported to other nations. And this goes down to where we are. We're only 2 Kenyans. Only two. That's not a good thing. It's not a good thing, right? We have to now mentally change how we see certain businesses and build our own skills and know-how to match that. So those are the types of cultural shifts that I think will make. You don't need to have the basic training to start a business, and I'll tell you why. That's a very controversial topic. As a business owner, what am I wired to do? As a business owner, I'm wired to see opportunity. That's what my wiring is in, to identify opportunity. If everybody solely started a business based on their area of training, there would be no businesses. I sit in this office guiding the direction of the business. The chemistry of this organization is done by a graduate of chemical engineering. He studied industrial chemistry. That was his background, that is his degree. He's a chemist, but he's a member of our team. The person who runs this plant, before I met him, I actually didn't know most of our out of Nairobi universities offer this degree. He studied manufacturing engineering. Excellent engineer, specialized in manufacturing. The notion that you start a business because that is your line of training means that very many people will remain unemployed, because not every manufacturing engineer will start a manufacturing company. Not every chemical engineer or industrial chemist is going to start a chemical business. That's for business people. So people like me, people who look like me, people who are able to spot opportunity, create systems, understand the working of business. It is our duty, not just role, duty, to ensure that we hire the right people to run our organizations. If Angela was going to wait to study manufacturing engineering, industrial chemistry, finance degree, so that she can do the business, it would never work. Because Mzito is not run by me. It's run by the different people in different departments who studied different things. And that's a mentality that we need to change and embrace. When you realize that you don't run the business, you need to hire people with the right skills to run the business. I think and I believe that skill sometimes is more important than the degree. What are you skilled at? So I think my ability to see people beyond their papers is one thing that sets me apart as a business leader. Another thing that sets me apart is that I've experienced motherhood. Yes. And I know many women tend to maybe even put that aside, but I think running a business is a lot like birthing a child. Your business is not your baby. Don't mix those two. I say the experiences are similar in the sense that from month 0 to 3, or even from month 0 to 6, the business can barely chew any food. You're still pumping in, investing, caring for it, nurturing it. By the time it gets to 1 year old, maybe it's walking. By the time it's at 3, it could be gobbling up things that it shouldn't be eating, but at the very least, it can walk, talk, eat. So business is not your baby, yes, but the cycle is very similar. And so it makes me patient, makes me very patient to see and wait about where Mzito will be at 20. Will it be moving out? Right, at 25, will I still be within the space, or will it have moved to maybe my children or my children's children? Yeah, I love to learn, and maybe that's why I've had a very unconventional path. And I am realizing that there's parts of me that I actively need to change, because normally I like interacting with everybody. I want to know whoever is at the beginning, but then I'm realizing that the company and the business is also growing. And so I am hiring a lot more, and now pushing that to HR, getting new departments. And I think what that is teaching me about myself is that, one, I can't do everything. And people are going to be the success of the organization. So the sooner I can also let go and let things run, the better for me, the better for the business.
She's not just a name in the crowd, but a force to reckon with. Conquered every obstacle. Conquered every obstacle. Conquered every obstacle to realize the goal.